but killing off your regular customers was no way to run a business. "You drive a hard bargain, Eaglehead," Watkin moaned, contorting his face woefully in the finest tragedian fashion. "What will we have left to trade to your brothers farther up the river if we give you another keg?" "Eaglehead not care. Want 3 whiskey." His demand left no room for dickering. Watkin frowned. "Let me talk it over with my partner." He and Smitter stepped off a few feet and put their heads together. "You ain't gonna give that red son of a bitch what he wants, are you?" Smitter growled. Watkin gave a short laugh. "I'd like to give him what he deserves, but I got a better idea." When he laid out his plan for Smitter, the other man frowned and reluctantly nodded his head. "Think you can get away with it?" "Long enough for us to be miles upriver by the time anyone finds out. If anyone finds out," Watkin said confidently. "It's all right by me, I guess." Watkin glanced at the chief. "All right, Eaglehead. You win. We'll throw in another keg of whiskey." The chief still didn't crack a smile, but merely nodded his head. Watkin called a fellow over named Israel Kopp. He gave him instruction in a low voice so that the Indians wouldn't overhear them. Kopp hurried to one of the keelboats for the promised payment. 10 minutes later, Kopp tramped down the ramp with the keg upon his shoulder and set it next to the first 2. "There it be, Chief," Watkin said, propping a boot atop it. "We got us a deal?" "Deal, Watkin," Eaglehead declared. "You drive a hard bargain, Eaglehead." Watkin signaled his men to start loading the skins aboard the boats. "Hurry it up, boys," he prodded. "Got to make another 10 miles before the sun sets." The Blackfeet collected the rifles, kegs, and the cartons of cheap trade goods. Watkin called the chief back as the Indians were about to leave. "Is your wife hereabout, Chief?" he inquired, looking over the faces of the women and children who, during the negotiations, had remained some distance off, but now were gawking at the glass beads and colorful ribbons the men had just acquired. Eaglehead inclined his head toward a hefty squaw standing nearby. "Ah, what a lovely creature," Watkin gushed. "Here's something special, just for her." From inside his shirt, he pulled out a tin hand mirror. Then, bowing deeply, he handed it to the Indian woman. "Such beauty demands a looking-glass. A gift to you, my dear lady." She accepted it cautiously, uncertain of the meaning of his words. But when she glanced into the glass at her gap-toothed image, her wide smile told him she was tickled pink. "Now we must be on our way," Watkin said, returning to the chief. As the last of the skins was loaded aboard, Watkin leaped to the deck and ordered the men to the poles. The 2 boats shoved out into the water. "Put your backs to it, men," Watkin shouted. The crafts moved sluggishly as the men manning the long poles shoved the keelboats toward the middle of the river. In a few minutes the band of Blackfeet was but a distant speck on the vast shore against an even vaster landscape of endless grass. As the crew pushed the keelboats up against the current, Watkin let out a long, relieved breath. The slap of water against the prow, the grind of the long poles sliding along the gunwales, propelling the sturdy crafts forward. This was the sound of freedom in Watkin's ears. He stepped to the prow and put a foot on the small cannon mounted there, watching the wide waters stretching all around him, broken here and there by the dangerous sandbars that could reach up unexpectedly and grab a boat in its mighty fists. Off to the larboard